On today's episode of Talking Shop, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Action Jackson. Enjoy.
I grew up such a fan of sports memorabilia and sports cards, and I'm really excited this show is both going to highlight that as well as the awesome entrepreneurs that make it all possible. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into another episode of Talking Shop. Today we have Chris Jackson, aka Action Jackson. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited. This is really cool.
So right before we hopped on, I just want to continue this conversation because we were talking about card values in 2014 as opposed to now. I mentioned that I remembered sitting on eBay. I was 14 at the time, so sitting on eBay, I probably had like $20 to $50 to spend. I remember wanting Jordan autos so bad, but they were going for $250, man. I was like, I can't buy into that. And now here I am sitting like a fool spending that on like a nobody's Prism rookie where they produced 400,000.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like we were saying, like the fact that you could buy a chronology LeBron James auto for $400 and now those are thousands and thousands of dollars. Like who would have known? Who would have known? People laughed at me back in 2014 for collecting sports cards. So
same, bro. I didn't tell any of my friends because I was so ashamed.
mm-hmm.
It was like I was a nerd in my personal life and I didn't. It was like my secret addiction, bro.
Honestly, like when I went to college, I was so nervous. Like my first 2 years of college, all these were under my bed. Like no one knew about them. I wasn't telling anybody, until it really came to fruition. And people are like, "You do what?" And that's cool. And people want to talk about it. So, and obviously now more than ever, people are talking about it.
Bro, I was ashamed about it up until like last year.
Last year?
Like literally last year, I was like, man, all these people, like, it is not dope. Like, I'm interviewing a guy and then going on like eBay and buying his cards and not telling anybody. And it's like, and it's just so funny how the whole industry has come full circle. Similar to anything that is actually cool, it starts out not cool and then it becomes cool.
Exactly.
Skateboarding, Supreme, sneakers, all these things were nerdy things until they aren't. But I want to talk a bunch about I think a good place to start would be to give a little bit of context on how you did get started. So how did you get started in the card game?
I mean, honestly, so a little bit about myself is I grew up, my dad works for Chevron. So throughout my whole life, we were living overseas, you name it. We lived in Venezuela, Nigeria, Singapore. So at the time I was in middle school and we were living in Singapore. And one thing I just kind of realized and it clicked for me was kids love sports. That was one way I was able to connect to people all over the world because every 2 to 3 years I had to make new friends. And the one thing that stuck for me was I could bond with kids over sports. So when I was living in Singapore, I realized kids love sports cards and they couldn't get them. So I was shipping unopened cases of wax to Singapore and selling to kids and even their parents. And when their dads started buying them, I was like, okay, this could be a real thing, So I basically was selling there in middle school for 3 years, cases of cards. And then when I came back to the United States, I wanted to play high school football. So we came back here and I started flipping singles online. And ever since then, it's just been a crazy ride. But yeah, that's how I kind of got started. I had a little bit of money from Singapore. And then once I got back to the US, it was all flipping and finding the right cards and just enjoying the hobby.
That's amazing. And also just for you to grow up in all those countries, it's incredible like diversity to be exposed to from a young age.
Looking back, I'm very blessed to have the opportunity. So yeah.
If you could go back to 2014, if I handed you $1,000 right now and you could time travel to 2014, what are you spending that $1,000 on?
Man, as we were talking about before we hopped on here, regrets. So in 2014, I thought the coolest things in the world, and I still think they're awesome, but obviously from an investing standpoint, probably not as good. But my favorite thing was like veteran patch autos and autos of like just, whoever. So my guy has been since day one and will always be Tom Brady. So
nice.
In 2014, I was buying the patch autos and just the coolest, shortest numbered autographs of Tom Brady. And I had a huge collection at one point, probably like 40 to 50 veteran autos. And I remember one of the card shop owners that I used to go to would come up to me and be like, where are the rookie stuff? Like, where's all your rookie stuff? I'm like, no, I don't like the rookie stuff. Like, it's not as cool. It's not as shiny. It's not as glossy. if I could go back in time, I'd be investing in Tom Brady contenders rookie autos when they were 350 to 400 a piece. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's incredible. I would buy 1,000 Giannis rookies.
Yeah, that would be your number one. That'd be your go-to.
I can't, like, as a basketball fan, and I couldn't even, like, if I'm not a huge football fan personally. Like, I am a Giants fan, and like we had our days, but I'm also a Giants fan because of those days that we had at like the perfect time in my life.
You guys hurt me.
Um, yeah, sorry. Um, but like for me, investing in a sport that I didn't love, like if I bought hockey right now, there would be no difference between buying hockey and investing in the stock market for me. There's no emotion. So it wouldn't be fun. So I would have to go with 1,000 Giannis rookies. That would be what, 60 grand now?
Depending on what rookie you get. But I remember he was dirt cheap. I'm talking like $5 to $10 a rookie auto. So yeah, you'd be doing pretty well.
$5 to $10 for a Giannis rookie.
I didn't even know who he was. I was laughing at his name because I wasn't big in basketball back then. I only got into basketball the last 3 or 4 years. But I just remember people being like, "Look at this dude's name. Try to pronounce it." And we'd all laugh when you pull him because we're all looking for the Kyrie Irvings and back at the time Anthony Davis and Anthony Bennett. Like
Because they
crazy.
did 2 years in 1 year, right?
That was the 2012-13 class. Yeah, so that's when you get like you got Kawhi, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, just Lillard, Beal. That's the craziest year of cards ever. Looking back, that would be another thing I'd invest in, like first year Prism. That just think of the rookie class. It's unreal. Draymond Green, Andre Drummond. It goes on forever. Every pick, Isaiah Thomas even was insane.
It's so crazy. Last summer, Prism boxes from 2012 were only a couple thousand.
Yeah, and I thought they were overpriced then. I was just like,
Damn.
how would someone pay a couple grand for a box? It just makes no sense. But look at it now.
So where do you think it's going to go? Do you think this is just going to keep tumbling over itself and it's going to be a snowball effect with every day now? I know you get it because you're a hell of a lot deeper than I am in this, but every day I get texts from like real life friends of mine that are like, so what do I buy? And I'm like, what? You're like, what are you talking about? How far is this going to go?
You know, I ask myself that question every day and I flip flop back and forth. My buddy Adam Lefko was just on. We FaceTime and we talk. We're like, where does this go from here? You know, it's so hot. It's so crazy. And I think the first debate you need to bring up is buying these bulk rookies or sticking to the like investment grade blue chip cards, right? Because I mean, this is an industry, and like any other, it's a cycle, right? It's going to have its ebbs and flows, and I truly believe that the Prism craze and all those rookies and just the mass quantity, I think a lot of the prices are being driven up right now just because there's all these new investors and new money, and they see like guys like Gary Vee and all the influencers out there buying these Prism cards. So that's what they assume is the right card to go for. They're not going to look at a National Treasures rookie patch auto and be like, that's the card I need. And nor are they going to go in and be like, I'm going to start off investing in a $7,000 card. But I think as people become more knowledgeable and you know it's a bug, like you catch it and then you're all in on cards. So I think the more people get invested and knowledgeable, I think the long-term play is these lower numbered rookie patch autos. I don't know what your take is on that. What do you think?
You think low numbered RPAs? It's interesting.
Yeah.
One of the cards that I've long believed, I struggle even to this day. Why the hell is Immaculate so cheap?
Yeah, it's so cheap. I think just National Treasures gets that, like, you know, in awe. Everybody's in awe of National Treasures. It has that.
Was it always that way?
It's always been National Treasures been number one. I think like the first year of Immaculate, people were pretty stoked, like, oh, this is a really cool new product. But yeah, it's like so underrated still, I think. I agree with you. And even Flawless, for the price you're paying for a box. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's super undervalued, both of those products. Like, I think they'll catch up, not to National Treasures, but the gap is so wide, it'll at least accelerate a little bit, you know?
Yeah, but then again, like you can get, like recently, and I've already sold it now, but I bought a Kevin Durant number to 15 flawless patch auto from With the Thunder, $300, and you can still get them for that price range right now. Like this is a top 2 player in the world. I'm open to debates, but for the sake of this moment, let's say he's the top couple players in the league and former MVP, multiple time NBA champion, and you get a patch auto from a $2,000 box for $300, yet a Prism rookie that they printed 200,000 of, and you know
Yeah, I mean,
the dude hasn't played a game in the league,
oh yeah.
like
I mean,
a Bol or a Porter Jr. type. Like,
oh,
it's crazy.
it is crazy. And I mean, a lot of the hobby, even with stocks, it's based off hype. People
Mhm.
will invest in whatever hype is going on and whatever's swirling around. People aren't rational investors. As much as we want to think we are, a majority of people aren't rational investors. They go off their heart and what they see other people doing and follow momentum trends. And that's what drives up prices, I think, or partly. Additionally, like with the Kevin Durant, I think one reason they are so cheap, though, is because he's one of those Panini exclusive athletes. So they're pumping his auto like
True.
crazy. Every product, like it used to be the most novel, cool thing to pull a Durant because he wasn't Panini exclusive. And to pull an auto of him was just like mind blowing back in like 2014, 2015. But when he got signed Panini exclusive and they pumped out his autos, it just takes away some of the appeal to a lot of people, I think, even in the high end products. I remember Kobe was the same way until he unfortunately passed away, but he was signing everything and anything. So his autos were what, 80 to $100 a piece, if that. I think
Sometimes
that has a lot to do with it too.
I mean, I know you remember the year where they put a Kobe pack in every Panini box.
My God, that was 2012-13 anthology. Yeah, I
That was
remember that.
2012.
That was
Wow.
2012-13. I remember
Time
everybody would open those
flies.
boxes with Prism. There'd be that pack on top. Yeah,
Time really flies. Wow.
I know.
That's
You can look
crazy.
back.
That
That was
was
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez. Um, yeah. So what would the best advice be for the people watching? Is it to stick to your head, or to stick to what you think the hype is going to be? Because I think those are the two. It's not like, obviously don't follow other people. Obviously don't buy things because other people buy them. But you're either are you being rational, and me being like, um, this Kevin Durant card is sick, and comparatively to all the other cards in the set, like, it's ridiculously cheap. So I'm gonna buy this, and it can't go down because it is what it is, and the market's going up, and he's gonna come back from an injury, all this and that. Um, or do you try to be like, all right, Jaren Jackson is gonna be playing in the bubble. He's playing with Ja. Like, I think his hype's gonna go up. Let me buy him. Which side of that are you kind of on?
I like to think I'm very moderate when it comes to all this stuff in collecting. I do both. I'll buy stuff because I like it and
Mm-hmm.
because I think it has potential. Just like maybe it's under, like for example, Donovan Mitchell. You know, the fact that he was like 1/8 the cost of Tatum, I was like, there's no way he should be 1/8 the cost of Tatum. Do I think they should be the same price? No, but I do think that his values are going to catch up a little bit, at least halfway, if that, if not a little bit more. So I guess that is following kind of the
And then he
hype trends
popped.
you're talking about. Yeah. So I try to predict trends. One thing is I noticed I've been doing for a few years is when football hits playoffs, everybody that's not in playoffs just tanks. All the rookies, Kyler Murray tanked. Silvers were 100 to 150 a piece. I'll go buy up all the guys in the before the offseason even because everybody thinks that when it's the offseason of a sport, that's the time to buy. But in reality, everybody's thinking that. So the prices start to rise in the offseason. It's towards the end of playoffs that I noticed that prices were just dropping. So I'd buy then and just hold till the next season. So I guess it is kind of about predicting trends if you want to make money in this and following who you think's going to be hyped up. Another thing that I was doing is if there's a top draft pick that's not playing, Ben Simmons didn't play his first year, Michael Porter Jr. Right now, Chuma Okeke is starting to pop off in value, and he hasn't even played yet. People just like to base off potential. That's the whole baseball prospect game too. People just want potential. They want to find the next Mike Trout. You
I
know,
don't believe in baseball cards. I just
you know,
don't. I don't believe in it. It's like, Like, there's no difference between baseball card predicting and like ghosts to me. I don't think either exist.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard. There's so many guys. It takes so long, and you just like you can tell me you know, but you don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's so tough. I try to say, like, if you're the best prospector out there or you're the best baseball scout, you're still going to lose in a lot of the prospecting because it's not all based off their play. They could be playing amazing and they're just not likable and they don't sell. Like, there's so many factors that go into a card's value that, yeah, it makes it very tough to pick the right player.
Yeah. But in terms of basketball cards, so does your previous point mean that like some of the guys that aren't going to be in the bubble, do you think they're going to go down a little bit?
Again, I was talking with some people and we looked at the schedule. Well, Trey Young, you saw, has risen a ton. He's almost doubled in price in the past few months, and he's not even going to be in the bubble. I
Yeah.
think part of that is because the season is starting back up now, and it goes to what, October,
Yeah.
and it ends. And then there's only like a 2-month gap, and then it's supposed to start in December again. So I think this hype's just going to carry and carry for these guys.
It's really incredible for the card market.
It is because, yeah, there's really not much gap or off season because once the off season hits, they're already talking about that it's the draft happens and then it's right back to business. Everybody's back to camp. So this is going to be really interesting. It's kind of unprecedented territory.
No, you're so right about that too. And I also have to imagine that because of Corona and because of quarantine, people are spending a lot more time at home, obviously. So by default, like you want the coolest things around you instead of going out to get them. And like for me, bro, we had Adam on the show a couple episodes back as of when this is dropping, and he was talking about how cards, like certain cards are his like gem, like out of uncut gems, it gives you special powers. And I feel the same way. So I have to imagine that quarantine has had a tremendous impact on people just wanting collectibles in their house.
Exactly. It gives a tangible asset, something people can hold and enjoy and not just go online and buy stocks and trade stocks. And people feel like they have more control over this because they know sports better than most people know stocks, right? Like people don't know about relative strength indexes and all that stuff as opposed to, Derek Jeter can hit home runs, so I think that plays a huge role too.
Pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you can definitely get burned. Even still, how do you advise people to stay away from getting burned?
I mean, I think there's two aspects of that. Getting burned as far as scamming, which is just, any that time there's money in anything, there's going to be bad people out there trying to manipulate and take advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as far as that goes, paying PayPal goods and services, if you don't know the person, people will try to make you pay friends and family so they can avoid that 3% fee. But if you don't know the person, pay goods and services. So be it. Pay an extra 3% to get the deal done.
Yeah.
Better than losing it all. So I think that's a huge thing. And I mean, just doing your research. Adam put together a really nice video of the 22 tips to start collecting. I think that's a really great start. But know how to look up things on sold listings on eBay. Know what you're paying for what you're getting, I think that's huge. People like to just be like, I want a Trey Young, and they go online and they say, that one looks cool, let's buy it, and pays 4 times market value. You can't expect to make your money back if you're making uninformed purchases. And I think another thing is just for people that are new, not every brand's the same. Like we're talking about, Immaculate looks sick, but in the long run, National Treasure is going to hold a better value. Select looks awesome, but right now, Prism's the number one. You got to know what you're buying. Set, player, timing. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But yeah, that's a quick way to get burned, just making uninformed purchases.
No, I think that's great advice. I want to ask you now, how does the sports card world feel about Pokemon?
That's all preference. I don't have any Pokemon cards yet, really. Nothing really high end. Like I said, I was going after a Charizard, I think, because it's just so iconic. I think it's different taste for different people. Like I collected Pokemon cards as a kid, but I don't have the expertise right now to just jump all in on Pokemon. Like I want to do my research and figure out what's the best ones to get. And I think people are open to it and it's becoming a lot bigger. And just the Asia market is huge, right? So
So huge.
I'm sure that's driving a ton of it. Just like soccer cards are picking up for worldwide, international. But
Soccer is like basketball from 2014 till now condensed into like 5 months.
I know, it's really picking up momentum. My one question with that is like, collecting cards has been an American pastime. Like it's part of our culture. I don't know if it's part of the culture in Europe, like collecting packs of cards. I don't know how that's going to translate because right now I think the soccer cards are being driven up by mostly American investors, like
Mhm.
people in the US picking up on soccer cards, which is driving the trend up. But I don't know how many are international buyers. I've had some soccer cards and I've never shipped one internationally. So I don't know what's going on there. But to answer your question with Pokemon, I think it's really just a preference thing, and if people enjoy it, they're going to pay for it. There's no like in the sports card world looking down on it or thinking it's a better investment. It's just different strokes for different folks.
Totally. Yeah, that's interesting about soccer. I wish PSA gave like pop reports in terms of like what countries cards sat in.
No, that'd be really interesting. I mean, they're already backed up as is, so I just want to get my cards back. They can work on all the fancy stuff later, but yeah, it'd be really cool to see like where cards are mostly flowing to and from, right? I think that's just something to keep track of because we can say all we want. Oh, like it's the most popular sport in the world, but people internationally aren't really into cards. It's not going to do much for it. So,
I know China's getting really into basketball,
mhm.
and they're breaking a lot of boxes and buying a lot of boxes. So I wonder if that translates to soccer.
Yeah, honestly, probably will, or probably already has. I'm kind of just watching to see like where all these like Messi's are going from where they're starting and where they're going to like see the trend because he's like the guy. So I'm just kind of
Is,
watching
is
stuff.
it Messi over Ronaldo? I don't know soccer well enough.
Yeah, so I don't know soccer a ton either, but from the people I talk to, my buddy Noah, he's like huge into soccer and really investing right now. He's actually getting out of basketball so much because it's so hot and going into new territory because he thinks that's the way to go. But
Wow.
he's been telling me that Messi just sells better. Ronaldo hasn't been playing as well as Messi. I thought Ronaldo would be number one just because of like his, appeal in magazines and he's in GQ and all that. But Messi is apparently just the gold standard of the hobby. So, yeah.
Wow. And Mbappe, I know, has gone from like a few dollars to, nearing 1,000 now.
Yeah. Unreal Mbappe. I mean, he's got all the accolades already. He's already got a World Cup and Golden Boot. And, I mean, he's killing it. And he's younger than me, maybe even younger than you. But it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It seems like World Cup Prism like 2014, and that's kind of the safest bet right now in soccer for those that are just starting to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too deep into soccer. I bought a couple things. Like I like Neymar, so I got something of his, and I got like base cards, from 2014 of Ronaldo and Messi because that seemed pretty surefire. But I'm not, back to like what you were talking about earlier, like do your research. I haven't done my research, so I'm not putting money behind where my knowledge lacks.
Oh, I hear you. I'm just like getting into soccer too, so I don't have a ton yet, but working on that research.
Yeah. So how do you research? How do you do your research for cards?
Yeah, so I mean, when I'm starting to invest in a player, I'll look at comparable players in the rookie class to see what they're selling for because I tend to be a guy that likes to invest in a guy that I think is undervalued, not someone that's already it and just can rise. But I like to find the guys like Donovan Mitchell's been my guy lately, just buying his stuff because it's so much cheaper than a Tatum, and the gap shouldn't be that wide, and it's already starting to catch up. But that kind of that tends to kind of be my process. Like I want to find those guys that are undervalued compared to other guys in the same draft class or the draft class prior or ahead of them. Just kind of finding that gap and then buying in and seeing what happens. And then obviously grading is a huge thing because you get those profit margins from grading that's going to help whether or not they even pan out. So that's been a huge thing for me as well.
That's awesome. I also realized I made a math error before. when I was talking about the 2014 Giannis's, I said 60,000. It would actually be 600,000.
Oh yeah, a lot more.
Just wanted to correct myself on that one.
There we go.
But how do you feel about some of these like new platforms coming out for sports cards? And do you think that eBay is going to be the sports card home base forever?
I mean, that's really interesting. Yeah, just all these alternative asset companies, and I don't know if eBay is going to be able to hold the threshold forever. With my slabs out there charging 1% fees, I think things are going to get really interesting though, because I don't know if you heard, but PayPal's changing their user terms and agreement to where
No
goods
way.
and goods and services payments are not going to cover resellable goods. So any cards we're buying to resell, it's not going to do the seller protection anymore. So that makes it really tough for like my slabs who uses that PayPal's goods and services to create the contract between buyer and seller. It's going to get really interesting really quickly. And I think whoever comes up with a solution to that could take over pretty quickly, because I know eBay has already said they started a managed payment system to where they're dropping PayPal out of the loop and everything goes straight to your bank account now. So they're obviously the first to do it. And I think more people will follow now that this user terms are changing.
Well, I think what it has to be, and I can't imagine an alternative to just having people deposit money into the system, and then once you have guarantee on both sides, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Goods and services has always been the way for me since I started this. Like, that's how I know I'm protected. And now that that's going away, there's got to be new ways to do it, because there's chargebacks. People will pay you and it vests in your account, and then they charge it back and say, like, I didn't receive the item or this or that, and they get the money back. So this is going to be really interesting territory. But I think once a platform comes and sticks and all people flood to it, that's going to be the end of eBay if that's the case. Because right now everybody looks on eBay because that's the biggest. You're going to get the most watchers, most people. But if something else takes over, so be it.
So about that, when is that going to come into place?
There's a ton of people in the works doing stuff. I don't think they want to be released yet, but some of my friends that I've talked to are starting these other companies to do that, sort of like PWCC does, and bring everything in-house. I think we're looking towards some conglomerate that's going to take over everything. I think that's going to be the future.
Do you know when PayPal's adding this, or rather removing the protection?
It's soon. I think it's in the next month or two. And I know eBay's already basically done. Like at the end of this month, at the end of July, everybody who's selling on eBay should be transferred over to the managed payments straight to the bank account. So it's all happening. It's all happening. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's got to have a pretty negative impact on the cards market, though.
I think it will. I think there's going to be a lot more people trying to take advantage of the situation, and it makes it hard to like sell on Instagram or Facebook because you're meeting a lot of people that you don't know. So vouchers are going to come into play a lot more, and like who you can trust, because everything's essentially friends, family payments now, right? So
your reputation's going to be even more important than it already was.
Exactly. Reputation's everything. Very easy to lose and hard to gain. So
makes sense. It's super interesting, man.
Yeah.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice that isn't like investing in a certain player or card when you first got into collecting, what would that be?
I mean, I guess the cat's out of the bag already, but go rookie, invest rookie. All these veteran patch autos and stuff, they're going to make those till the day the athlete dies or until the company's insolvent. They can make those every year forever. Rookie year stuff and low numbered rare rookie year stuff is where it's at, because there's only so many made that one year and they can't redo rookie years. So that would be my big word of advice to people for sure.
And that even applies to today.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how sustainable or how long the whole Prism craze with these 12,000 Luka Doncic PSA 10 rookies, I don't know how long that's going to last, because eventually everybody's buying right now waiting for the NBA to come back. what happens when people want to start selling, and everybody wants to start selling. So I think this will be really interesting territory to see when the people that are investing want to unload and see some returns. Because right now it's all just product, no cash.
For the people who are sitting on some of these cards, when do you sell? That's a big controversial question in the card game because nobody wants to talk about it. But at what point do you restart?
My philosophy has always been, don't try to catch it on the up, like the highest point. Never catch it on the highest point because you're not going to. Most likely you're going to catch it when it starts to dip or starts to fall really quickly. I like to catch it at the 95th percentile. Right now it's kind of uncharted territory. I don't know what percentile we're at right now, but if you wait to catch it, you're going to end up losing, or you're going to lose out on some profit. So I think that's a word of advice. And everybody's buying right now. I'm just really curious to see when people start to sell.
Super interesting, man. Where can people find you best if they want to check you out, ask you some questions, buy some cards off you? Where can people find you best?
I'm action_Jack_cards with a Z on Instagram, on eBay, and I'm Christopher Jackson on Facebook. People are already reaching out to me because of Lefko's exposure, and I appreciate you having me on here, but shoot me a DM, and I'm happy to talk to people and spread the word of the hobby, just like you're doing. You're doing great things for this hobby, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on the next episode. My man, thank you again.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Without any further ado, I will see you guys on the next episode. Big thank you to Jack once again, Action Jackson. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.